What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we return with Zeus of the Almighty Hellfreaks. Great to be able to talk with you again. Thanks for being here.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. It's great to be able to talk with you again because the last time we spoke, I don't even think we were like promoting really like an album or anything. I think we were just kind of like doing like an introduction to all the band and everything. But now we got Pitch Black Sunset coming out. This album is absolutely epic from start to finish, and I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it. But for people who
Thank
have
you so much.
anytime, anytime. But for people who haven't heard the full album yet, with the singles that we heard so far, such as Weeping Willow and Hit Me Where It Hurts, Chaos, and Old Tomorrow, is that a good representation of this whole album, or is that just scratching the surface of this album?
Well, I mean, we believe that it's a good representation. Otherwise, we would not drop these songs as a single. But on the other side, I already received a couple of fantastic album reviews. And they all said that like each of the songs have some surprising, facets, if I can say that. So I don't know. There is definitely some more, maybe some. I wouldn't say that there are the more punky songs left. Well, people have to check it out. It is definitely, this album is definitely the most aggressive album that we ever made, and at the same, it's also the most dark album that we ever made. So it's definitely something unusual from us, but we always do unusual things because we hate to repeat ourselves and we like to do new things. So yeah, I think actually on the day when we're going to release the album, we're also going to release a new music video, which is the name-giving song of the album, Pitch Black Sunset, PBSS. And I think that song is like the perfect sum up of the whole album.
Mhm. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, I became a Hell Freaks fan after our first interview that we had last year, and I went and
Yeah.
listened to the whole catalog, and you would be able to tell, like, you would be able to notice differences between Hell Sweet Hell and Astoria or Circus of Shame or God on the Run.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seems like every
There
album,
are.
every album tends to play by its own rules. So, does it ever start off with a preconceived vision of what you want an album to sound like, or is the songwriting process a very experimental process?
No, honestly, it's really like, we just sit together and we have no idea what we're going to do. So it's never really like having a concept and then working out the concept. Like the only concept that this band always had is that we will not repeat ourselves simply because we're always afraid that if we try to repeat ourselves or if we try to do the same thing that we already did, then we're just going to make like a not that good copy of ourselves, if this makes any sense.
Of course.
And what really makes fun for us and what the exciting part for us is to experiment, is to mix up the genres, is to put together unusual things, and is to try and to learn new things. So for example, for me as a vocalist, you can truly see that from album to album I'm using new vocal techniques. It is simply because I am really much focusing on learning new stuff and getting good enough to show it on a record or even live. Um, so we changed a lot, and for me it wasn't that surprising that this album is going to be like more aggressive than the last one was because as I just said, vocal technique wise, in the last couple of years, I was really much into learning the metal screaming vocal techniques because they're super exciting and they are actually time to time can be quite difficult. For me, it was very challenging. And because it was so challenging, I was so happy that I started to learn the first things, to do the first steps, to feel confident enough that I can put it into the music. And it is super fun to do screaming. Simply, it's like a huge fun. So I'm personally really wanted to push this record like in a more aggressive style because I wanted to use these vocal techniques. But all the band members are like from punk and metal roots. So for us, it doesn't seem like an unnatural step. It's much more like this was the way how it had to happen, you know. But if you ask me, like, and what's the next step, I have no idea at this point. I have no clue what the next record is going to be, style wise for the Health Freaks. I just know that we're still, I mean, on all our albums we're mixing kind of the same elements. It's just about what we're using in a bigger portion and whatnot, because it's always about punk and it's always about metal and hardcore and even pop. So I don't think the Hellfreaks will ever do, I don't know, jazz music. I mean, never say never, but I don't think at
Well,
that point.
well, I've always said that your voice is like, and your voice is one of the first things that I gravitate to when listening to this, because I would say you have a very versatile voice, almost to the same way that like Mike Patton does in a way, or
Wow, thank you. Oh
or
my
Phil
gosh,
Anselmo.
wow.
Like you have the ability to be the voice of our dreams and our nightmares of darkness and light. So I think it is really a great way of expressing yourself. And with that, I wanted to ask if, because you have a very aggressive vocal style and a very melodic vocal style, you have a punk side and a metal side. Does each side of you almost express a different side of your personal life or your personality in a way, or being that it's
Oh yeah.
all, or being that it is all coming from you, it's still expressing the same thing with just a different vocal technique?
No, it's. I mean, there are different things. Of course, on one way, it is about the technique, and an example. If you do metal screams, it feels like super aggressive. It feels like it is super powerful. It feels like you're shouting out your soul. But actually, to do this properly, you have to be like super relaxed, and you have to stay super calm, and you have to stay super like, to be honest, exactly the opposite how it sounds from outside. Because if you push it too far, it won't sound good actually. So this is the technical side. But I am like, I'm like, I truly believe that the whole underground movement is about honesty, about being honest. So that's also why I'm like revealing maybe even too much of myself in the lyrics. But honesty is for me like on the top. And that means that because of my lyrics are that honest, I definitely also feel the stuff that I am talking about. So yes, when we have the type of punk songs, there is the punk attitude. Um, what I love actually about punk was always the attitude, the I don't know, the like really the type of anger that this music has is so revealing that I'm just like it really comes out very natural from myself when I'm doing like the punk vocal styles. But on the other side, then we have metal music, and I've never seen any type of underground musical genre where you can express so many different feelings in one genre. So, like, I think in metal you can be like very vulnerable. I think that's totally covering metal. And then on the other side, you can also have like huge balls and tell everyone to go to hell. So it is. You can use it for so many different things, and I do believe that doing good vocals, it also means that you really have to feel the things, and that you really have to be like, you really have to mean what you're saying, So of course there's a lot of honesty, and there is a lot of me in all those singing techniques that I'm doing.
Yeah, well, because there's also, you mentioned, especially with Pitch Black Sunset, that there's such a
Yeah,
darkness to it, and we've also talked, I believe in our last interview, you talked about the personal elements that you
yeah,
express in this. I think it is, you do approach the music from a very vulnerable and aggressive spot. But when you have to like, when darkness and, for lack of better words, negative energy is almost kind of like the artistic inspiration and the fuel behind your
yeah,
creativity.
yeah.
But does that maybe make the songwriting process just as deteriorating or just as painful as it could be cathartic in a way?
Well, I'm always I have heard like a million interviews of bands that I love where they are talking about that music writing is like a therapy for them. And I never understood this. was it was never like that for me. For me, you know what the therapy part of writing music is? When actually everything is done and I hear the result the first time, then I'm feeling like, ah, now that's was worth it to work it on it for so long, and we did something that is like, no one can take it away because it's music, so it's like it will be there forever because it's music, and it means a lot to me. But actually, when I am writing, I really have to go into a dark place in my mind, because otherwise I'm not able to write anything. But I doesn't feel it. It's not a torture for me or something like that. For me, it's much better that I'm just like sitting there and take the time to find the right words, to find the way to express those messed up feelings in my head and those messed up thoughts in my head, and then being controlled enough to put it down into like proper lines. It's not a torture. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy, to be honest. So for me, it's like kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
But it's also a very good feeling to, it is a little bit like putting your chaotic thoughts in a kind of order when you sit, or when I sit down. Or for me, it's like that. When I sit down and write lyrics, it's a bit like that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have to go to dark places. I have to. I'm always telling like I am really good in writing lyrics when it's winter time here in Hungary, because then it's cold and it's dark, and I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I'm not really going outside a lot. But especially in the winter time when it's cold outside, like, no, I'm here at home. I'm fine, thank you. And that's the way how I can write good lyrics. I think but it's simply these are the elements that activate the artist in me. Yeah. I think it's just that simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, first off, maybe you should start a black metal side project, or maybe the Hellfreaks will become black metal in a way. But I find that really, first off, it's great to hear you say that, because I agree with you that like art isn't, and it shouldn't always be therapeutic all the time. Art, yeah. The creative process has to be torturous. It has to be deteriorating. It has to be intimidating in a way. But when you revisit those lyrics and you play them live and you go back to that, does it almost kind of put you back in that same dark headspace in a way? Or when you're playing them live?
I have to. It's a must. It's a must. Otherwise, people will see that it's really not honest. So yeah, it definitely throws me back to that, and it definitely, actually, it has to. I have to open myself, like staying on a stage and open yourself about your darkest thoughts. That's a bit of scary, but as I said, I truly believe that this whole underground music is only working and only existing and is so important and will exist for so long because it's all based on honesty. And when you're honest and people hear what you have to say, maybe they even read your lyrics, and maybe just one from 100 people will say, oh, fuck, I go through the same things. I feel the same. Oh, I'm not alone in this. Oh, and then this person will feel better. And this means so much to me. Being able to share something that maybe also others go through. That's actually the deal. That's actually what it's all about.
Yeah. And sorry again, they're doing construction at the apartment above me, though.
No
freaking assholes. But and you mentioned too, like, winter is a good time for you to write lyrics, and you have these dark places. But inspiration sometimes strikes at times when you least expect it as well. So do you almost need to? Is there ever a time where maybe like the inspiration strikes when you're not able to put yourself in that dark place?
Yes. It's quite often like that I just got hit by inspiration. It's just one thought or one line, not more. And then I'm just taking my phone, and I actually have like a place on my phone, a little note where I'm putting down like 3-4 words, and I know that, okay, this is something I can work out, but maybe later on. And then I take it take these little notes out and see what I can do with them. And yeah, but it's even the same with melodies, because time to time melody ideas hit me right on the street, and then, if I'm not recording there on the spot, it's away. So it's a bit ridiculous, because these are the moments when I'm taking my phone directly on the street, standing there alone, and like, ah, la, 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 la,
Yep.
and recording the idea. But if I'm not doing it, then it's just away. So, but I heard that a lot of singers actually do the same thing. So
Yep.
I'm not the only weirdo here.
I see it on a daily basis on the subway in New York City. I see people humming
Really?
stuff into their phone. I'm like, I know what you're doing, dude. I know what you're doing. Maybe I'll interview your
Yeah.
band one day. But in the end, with the Hellfreaks consisting of 4 members, does everybody kind of need to feel the same way and kind of almost resonate with your darkness in order to write to that emotion in a way? Or
Oh.
could that also help? People feeling differently maybe actually help your already eclectic sound.
Well, they no. To be brutally honest, I often think that the guys, time to time, have still no idea what the songs are about, even if we are on the same stage together. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not true. I don't know, but I often feel like that. No, I'm just joking. So actually, when we're writing songs, most of the times, first we write the instrumental part. First we have the full instrumental part, and only after that I start to work out the vocal melody and the lyrics. So every time they write a song, they actually have no idea what the song is going to be about, because that is on me. But yeah, there have been some, like, and they're still going on these type of moments, because our main songwriter is our bass player Gobi. We live together, and it happens often that he is way more into punk. Let's say he's like the punk part of the band, and then me and Josie, the guitarist, are maybe more into metal. I would say it like that. We're not that polarized, but something like that. And it's often that Gobi writes actually a really cool chorus, like instrumental wise. And then I'm listening to that, and I'm telling him that this is great, but it's just too happy. I can't. You have to change it. It's too happy. So, so there are often these like little conflicts in between us. But I also do believe that exactly this little type of chaos, and that we are not always on the same mood, exactly this is what makes the Hellfreaks at the end, and that's why it can be so interesting in a way, what type of musical solutions you can find in a song, even if it's topic wise about something totally different. So I don't want to change this, and I don't think that it would work for us if, for example, we would write a lyric concept together and then write the instrumental part about the concept. So I think this is not working for us, because we are really the type of band who are just going with their own natural flow, and it works out good so far. So I don't want to destroy this.
Yeah. Well, it's funny going back to like what we said. We don't agree when everybody says that the music is therapy to them. I also don't agree whenever I ask a band how the making of an album was, and they say, "Oh, we all collectively came together and it was all a mutual agreement." You're at a band with 4 to 5 people. You're writing 12 or so songs together. There's going to be disagreement. There's going to be
Yes.
there's going to be parts that some like and others don't. I think that's
Yeah.
the essential part of being in a band. But I think that sort of disagreement is just as important as the camaraderie that you share with your bandmates as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
And I have a few more questions for you. But when it comes to the entirety of your albums, especially because you address like certain concepts and stuff, would you look at every album from Hell Sweet Hell to now as a self-portrait in a way, or do your songs conceptually maybe serve as metaphors, or maybe external? Does it all come from internal, or is there external sources of inspiration as well?
Well, there is a big difference. I have to separate our albums here, because our first 2 albums, they were they were actually they belonged to a genre, because the first two albums were psychobilly albums, psychobilly, maybe horror punk, but let's say psychobilly music. And these, like, lyric wise and also music wise, psychobilly is actually huge fun. I like it, I really like it, but on the creative side it is very limited. So there, even if I wanted to write about kind of personal things, I had to put it in a kind of, I don't know, in a kind of lullaby, because of the psychobilly genre, because it really requires some special elements. This music requires some special lyrical elements, and yeah, it's a kind of limited path that you can walk. So the first two albums were a mix of everything. I wouldn't really say that it was a scan of myself. It also were about actually just stories that I heard that were inspirational to me. But after that, our third album, from that moment on, when we started to work on Astoria, from that moment on, it's really always a scan of my own soul and mind at heart. It is really always about what's going on in me, and time to time it ends up luckily in a kind of concept. But as I said, even for this album, it ended up in a concept, but it did not start with a concept. It was much more like writing about the things that were going on in my head. And then when everything was ready and I made a step back, I just realized that, oh, actually it is a concept. Actually, it all belongs together. Now I can see it, but I couldn't see it as long as I was working on it.
Well,
So, yeah.
Well, that's always one of the most fascinating things about creating an album, especially like with a concept album. Like some artists think of the concept in mind right before they lay down a note,
Yeah.
and they have it right away. I don't know how they do that to this day,
Yeah,
but it seems like
Yeah.
you're able to kind of let the art develop and form a life of its own.
Yeah, but I feel like a huge respect for those artists who know what they are doing.
Yeah.
Because I am just doing what naturally comes. And because of that, I am always very afraid till the very end if the puzzle pieces will belong together at the end or not. Because it is, it's super risky, because it's like you just run into a dark room and you don't even have an idea where the walls are. You just run as fast as you can, and you just hope that you will not break your neck because that's actually what's happening here.
Yeah.
I would be so happy to be one of those artists with a clear concept in their mind.
Well,
who know what they want to do. I have no idea.
well, the Mastodons and the Steven Wilsons are a rare breed of human, let alone musicians. So I think in the end, I think it's totally cool because because a lot of people assume when they hear the Hellfreaks, a lot of people have compared you to a lot of the punk rock and hardcore bands. I can't tell you how many people thought you guys were actually from New York rather than Hungary.
Really?
But yeah.
that's so amazing.
Yeah.
And I just want to make it once in my lifetime to New York. I just want to see that city.
Oh, we'll get into that shortly because we need you to come here. But but I think it's because a lot of people assume that like punk rock and hardcore, it's not meant to be really, and I don't say this in a negative way at all, but it's not meant to be like thought provoking or metaphorical or something like that. It's just supposed to be straight to the point, no explanations or no interpretations. I think you have the best of both worlds. I almost consider the Hellfreaks to be the thinkers hardcore band in a way.
Oh, wow. Ooh, aw. Yeah, well, look, it is at this moment, there are like a billion of very good and awesome good bands all around the world in each kind of genre. There are a million of awesome hardcore bands and a million of awesome metal bands and punk bands, etc. And I think if to do something new, it is so tricky. It is so difficult because you will always find someone who already did it if you stick to one genre. So, I always loved hardcore music. I always loved the attitude, but I could never do just a pure hardcore band just with the typical hardcore lyrics simply because I get like, yes, someone already said that, actually said that with way bigger balls, so it was way more convincing. So I will not do that. So I will do it in my own way. And to be honest, the own way can be a bit scary because the own way means that you're not doing the thing that others usually do. So you will definitely have face some gatekeepers who will tell you that you're doing it wrong because you're not doing it the exact way how others did. So it is a bit of scary. But on the other side, we cannot do it in any other way, you know? It is
Well,
just how it is.
every quote unquote original artist, which I put in quotes, never sought out to be original. That was never
Yeah.
their original intention in a way. They took inspiration from one artist and then maybe figured out like a lot of them. I heard like a lot of the metal bands I listened to were very inspired by ZZ Top. So they just learned
Yeah.
to play ZZ Top riffs really, really, really fast, and that's how they came up with thrash in a way. You know, you look
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
Ramones and like they have their own, and then people were kind of appropriating their chord progression and putting something into it. Like every band that is original never tried to be original. And I also think too, like it's one thing to be inspired, but is there a threshold to being inspired and ripping somebody off? There's times where I wanted to be like, oh, let me guess what your favorite band is. Is it the band you sound exactly
Yeah.
alike?
Yeah. But it can really cause some trouble because, I mean, luckily, maybe we are not at that position anymore. But back then, it was always like people asked us like, tell me some bands how your band sounds like, and then we said like, well, I don't know, just imagine Madball mixing with Paramore, and they were like, what?
That's
you know,
both are great
So-
bands.
we always had to mention so different bands like in one list that from outside I know that it did not make any sense. you know? So it can make it tricky if you are a band who doesn't fit in one genre. It is. But on the other side, now I'm just repeating myself, but how else can you do something new? I don't see the option. And
Yeah. Well, I think Madball mixed with Paramore is a great one. I've always have a saying: the worse it sounds on paper, the better it is when you listen to it. That's so so I think in the end that's a great analogy right there, and I really think like I would stick with that description. That actually is great. Yeah. Yep. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for coming back on the show and for such an excellent conversation. And I'm really
Thank
glad.
you.
I'm really glad that the construction was kept to a minimal today. I was wondering how it was going to work all day today. Is there just anything else with the Hellfreaks you'd like to promote? Like when can you finally be coming to the U.S. one day?
I don't know. I really want to. So look, we will do everything to come, especially to New York. We really would love to, all of us, because none of us have ever been in New York, and it's like very on the top of our bucket list. So we will not stop till we make it. That's the only thing that I can say at the moment. But I don't have fixed date yet. But we're working on it.
It'll be worth
So yeah,
it.
people have to listen us, and they have to spread our music, and then it's definitely going to work out.
It'll be worth the wait. And you know how like every band they say we want to play New York and our dream venue is Madison Square Garden or Carnegie Hall. You need to play at the Lower East Side at the Bowery Electric or the Niagara Bar. All like the hardcore birthplaces.
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah, we'd love to. And Madball's playing in the park again, so that would be great to see there too. But thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with the Hellfreaks. Be sure to check out their brand new album, Pitch Black Sunset, coming out very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York. Fuck that construction above me, and we will see you next time.